HarperCollins presents The Man Who Was Saturday, The Extraordinary Life of Airey Neave by Patrick Bishop, read by Tim Francis. Preface. Biography masquerades as history, but is often a species of fiction. That is not necessarily the fault of the biographer. Establishing the external facts of a public life in modern, well-documented times is fairly straightforward. It is charting the inner landscape that is the problem. How can we know what someone really thought, what drove him or her to do this or that? Letters and diaries open a window on these processes, of course, but can we be sure the motives and feelings they reveal are genuine, and not retouched with an eye to the good opinion of posterity? In tackling the life of Airey Neave, I have leaned on two versions of who he was. The public one is laid out in the several memoirs he published based on his service in the Second World War. The other is contained in the voluminous diaries he kept covering crucial years in the last period of his political career. The frequent introspective and unsparing passages make it hard to believe they were written for anyone but himself. Thus I felt I had the basis for something like a reasonably authentic portrait, Neave as he would like to be seen, and Neave as he saw himself. There is another very important viewpoint, Neave as he appeared to everyone else. Neave struck many of his contemporaries as inscrutable. The face he presented to the world was conventional and confident. This was to some extent an act. Behind the bland mask lay a very different personality, racked by insecurities, plagued by doubts and depressions, and haunted by a sense of failure and underachievement. Studying his life confirmed for me the truth of the words of the country priest whom André Malraux met when serving with the Maquis in the mountains of southeastern France. Asked what he had learned about humanity from the many confessions he had heard over the years, he gave the answer, "The fundamental fact is that there is no such thing as a grown-up person." I find that answer moving and heartening. It is said to be a hazard of writing biography that familiarity breeds contempt, and in the course of the research the author comes to loathe the relative stranger they blithely shacked up with at the start of the project. I am happy to say that for me the experience had the opposite effect. I came to like Neave a lot. He had his faults, vanity, touchiness, a dissatisfied nature, but they are greatly outweighed by his virtues, physical bravery, not in short supply among his generation, but also moral courage, quiet patriotism, and a basic decency. All came to an end in a shocking death at the hands of the forces he had been opposing in one way or another all his life. He led an interesting one, and his story has a satisfying curve. The adventures and achievements of his early career seemed to promise a glowing future. Instead, there followed years of frustration that sometimes brought him close to despair. Then, unexpectedly, the stars aligned to deliver a success that was all the more satisfying for its late arrival. He lived through a period of history which, though fairly recent, now feels curiously remote. What follows is an attempt to reanimate both him and his time. Prologue. Some devils got him. On Friday the 30th of March, 1979, change was in the air. For much of the month the weather had been cold and wet, but lately it had warmed up, and in London the trees were in bud. The change of season matched a great political climacteric. 2 days before, the Labour administration of James Callaghan had finally stumbled to an end after months of public service strikes, already notorious as the winter of discontent. In 5 weeks a general election would in all probability elect a Conservative government, with, for the first time in British history, a woman at its head. When Airey Neave woke up that morning, he had every reason to savour the atmosphere of promise and renewal. As the man who had engineered Margaret Thatcher's accession to the Conservative leadership, he had played a crucial part in great events. At the age of 63, after a long wait and many disappointments, he was about to taste real power. As a reward for his services, Mrs. Thatcher had offered him any shadow portfolio he wanted. To the bafflement of many, he picked Northern Ireland. Political progress in Ulster was at a standstill, and political violence a fact of everyday life. It seemed a masochistic choice. Neave saw it as a challenge, a last chance to bring off an achievement that would leave his mark on history. Since adolescence, he had been opposing those he saw as the enemies of democracy.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?